Welcome to this week's episode. Today, we're diving into the cutting-edge world of generative AI in the enterprise. I'm joined by the Senior Vice President of Global Sales and Solutions at Quadrant Technologies, who's sharing firsthand insights on how powerhouse companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Nike are harnessing technologies like OpenAI to revolutionize their industries. And trust me, there's one use case we discuss that can change the way you think about AI in your business.
Our vision and our strategy has been to figure out how can we simplify this experience. How can people get to the information instantly without really having to go through these multiple steps? That's what I think is the biggest bang for the buck in terms of how and where generative AI can be applied.
Before we get started, if you're as excited as I am about where AI is heading, make sure to hit subscribe and like. Your support helps me to keep bringing you conversations like these with upcoming episodes on responsible AI, AI and misinformation, and more game-changing topics that you won't want to miss.
This is the OpenAI Changes Everything podcast with your host, Stephen Walther, where we explore how OpenAI is transforming the future of humanity.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I am so excited today. I have Sai Suresh with me today. And first, let me say thank you, Sai, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And let me start with a brief bio. Sai is the Senior Vice President of Global Sales and Solutions at Quadrant Technologies. He is the mastermind behind implify.ai, the product that we're focused on today. And I just want to start by saying I'm really excited about the subject matter today because I'm really curious about how AI is being used in the enterprise. And I know, Sai, you have a lot of experience working with enterprises, working with large companies. I know, you have a new product that you're coming out with to help enterprises, but I'm also just, generally interested in sort of like what's your experience been working with these enterprises and their attitudes about AI. So I'm really excited to get into this conversation because I want to understand how they're using it. And maybe I should start by, I know Quadrant's been working with enterprise customers such as Microsoft, Amazon, Nike, eBay. When it comes to generative AI, what are these companies excited about? What are they reaching out to your company about? What are the sort of areas that they're excited about all this new AI stuff for?
Pleasure to be here, Stephen. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with your audience, and excited about the conversation. It's the most talked about theme of the day, and there is excitement all over, and it's indeed exciting times for everyone associated with technology, IT. I mean. And anyone who has even a little bit of interest should be interested in this conversation as well. So you mentioned some key names in the industry, and needless to say, all of those big clients have some serious interest in AI and generative AI. And the interest is pretty broad-based, I would say, across the industry. And there is actually a proliferation of use cases for good reason, right? And it's not just euphoric, interest. It's not just
nothing wrong with euphoria, though. But I take it that there's good reason for the euphoria. I hope there's good reason for the euphoria.
Absolutely. The good thing is, unlike some of the previous technology waves, where we've had some challenges with downtimes. This time, I think the good thing is that there is tremendous interest in delivering real business value, right? Be it in terms of delivering good customer experiences, driving productivity, being able to find new markets, new customers. I think everyone is focused on delivering these types of meaningful value to the enterprise, rather than just going after technology because of excitement reasons.
Right.
So that's a big positive change with this new wave of technology, and that's what we are seeing across these big enterprises too. From our own experience, go ahead if you have.
Oh no, sorry. I was just I guess I'm curious about like how these companies are approaching like implementing this new technology? Because it does feel like this is different from a lot of technologies in the past where, this is so broad. It covers so many different possible applications. Are
Absolutely.
they, are companies like, are they creating like centralized teams to try to figure out how to drive AI across the company? Is this something that they're doing training across the company for? How are they approaching it? Because it is a different thing than, like something like GDPR, for example, where
Mhm.
you have a specialized team that's just, focused on GDPR and going off to the different parts of the enterprise and saying, this is what you need to do to,
Right, right,
satisfy GDPR requirements.
right.
This is a little different because it's like potentially
All
impacting
pervading.
everything.
All
Yeah.
pervading. Yeah, yeah, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. I think AI, generative AI more specifically, has brought in some level of democratization, I would say, across industries, across businesses, which is a great thing. I think there is everyone is involved, everyone is invested in this technology. There is broad-based innovation that's happening, both inside and outside IT. I would say business is a lot more interested in finding interesting use cases. So there is a lot of innovation that's happening in terms of finding right use cases, interesting use cases that can drive. I think the focus is always on customer experience, productivity, new markets, new customers. Those are underlying themes that are pretty common across industries. But I think the innovation is definitely happening across the organization. Now, in terms of the actual, when it comes to actual implementation, that's a different story, right? This is complex technology. There are a lot more dimensions to, let's say, building a CRM application or a ERP application. This has multiple dimensions to it. There are a lot of questions about privacy, security, confidentiality. Is my data going to go out of the four walls of the company?
Yeah.
Is the AI company going to be using my data to do model training for their models? There are all kinds of these questions. So the implementation is still in the realm of the CIO and CTO organizations, is what we are finding.
I see.
So I think the great thing is that there is a real partnership between business and IT in terms of everyone innovating the use cases, but then IT taking a more proactive role in terms of determining what technologies, what platforms to bring in, how it needs to be implemented. What's the roadmap in terms of how do we start, where do we start, what's that pilot project, and how are we going to scale the technology. All of those issues are being really addressed by IT, which is, I think, the right thing to do.
So, do you think we're still in the sort of exploratory discovery phase of things? Are companies still just sort of scratching their heads and saying, "Wow, we have this incredible new power. What do we do with it?" Or are we at the stage now that companies are actively implementing stuff? And you mentioned pilot programs. Are we at the point where there's real use cases that companies are focused on developing, and that do you feel like there's a clear idea of how the best way to harness this new technology to have real business value?
I think many companies are still in the exploratory phase, is what we are seeing. Even some of the largest corporations, they are in the piloting proof of concept phase. There are not yet big full scale investments and engagements that are out there. There could be a few here and there, but I think largely even the largest corporations are still in evaluation mode, I would say. Largely because of the same concerns that I mentioned a few minutes ago, which is around security, privacy, confidentiality. But I think it's also about finding the use cases that can really deliver that big business value, because these are large investments. So I think we're probably a few months away from real large scale production scale implementations and investments.
So if you had to predict like what some of these big use cases would be, I mean, what do you think is the most exciting sort of areas that you see companies considering using, especially generative AI for within the walls of the enterprise?
If you look at what's been happening in the last couple of years since the launch of ChatGPT, which has really taken on the world, and this huge adoption everywhere. Uh, Chatbots are everywhere, right?
Yeah.
You have every conceivable company launching chatbot, and even enterprises have been implementing chatbots all over. But I think, in our opinion, and that's where we are headed to in terms of our own strategy and our own product management type of initiatives, is around enterprise integration. I think that is going to be the biggest use case. I mean, I wouldn't call it a use case, but it's probably the biggest area of focus for a lot of enterprises is going to be bringing together the enterprise assets, leveraging generative AI, and being able to drive customer experience, user experience, internal user experience, partner experience, delivering that instant, value to these audiences is going to be a primary differentiator in terms of how this technology is going to be used. That's our experience, and that's what that's been the premise of our own strategy, as I mentioned, and we validated it with a number of clients, and that seems to be of tremendous value to a lot of our clients.
Let me make sure I understand. So right now, there's, I've worked for a number of large enterprises. I know that pretty quickly you get data locked into all sorts of different areas of the company. It's hard to get to it. It's hard for product managers to be able to make decisions because they don't have access to all the data they need to be able to make all the right decisions. It's hard for, I don't know, it's hard for people to come up with good business strategies because maybe all the data isn't readily available. Is this, when you're talking about integration, are these kind of the primary use cases, trying to get that data in a form where it can be shared easily across the company and where people can start leveraging the existing data to make decisions?
Absolutely. Just
Okay.
to simplify the use case or the value, today there is no dearth of information in the enterprise, right? I mean, you have all kinds of applications, you have all kinds of data stores, you have data repositories, you have data
Way
warehouses,
too many of them
way
normally.
too many of them. That's really the problem, right?
Right.
And if an employee has to, let's say, a new HR employee needs to figure out a new HR, a policy change, a HR policy change, to be able to answer an employee question, does he have that information readily available? You probably need to figure out, a particular document, open the document, look inside the document, get to the specific section, understand the content, and then be able to respond to the employee. Likewise, if a customer has to look up order status, he probably needs to go to a customer portal, log in, go to an auto management page, look up his order, and then look at the status.
Yeah.
Right? It's easily a 3 or 4 step process for anyone to get to the information they need.
Yep.
Our vision and our strategy has been to figure out how can we simplify this experience. How can people get to the information instantly without really having to go through these multiple steps? That's what I think is the biggest bang for the buck in terms of how and where generative AI can be applied.
That makes sense. So I guess so. Let's change gears a little bit and talk about. I know you've been working on a new product called. Is it called Implify.ai?
Amplify with the N.
I'm trying to get that in. Implify.
Yeah.
Implify.ai. And
Yeah.
can you give me a quick description? What does it do? Does it help with this problem that we're talking about? How does it fit into enterprises?
It exactly solves the problem that we just talked about. Our vision and our strategy has been using generative AI to solve. I mean, this is an age-old problem. I mean, this is not a new problem. Enterprises have been figuring out ways to do this effectively, efficiently, and I think generative AI serves as a great tool in achieving that integration. And we've been working on this for almost 12 to 15 months now on this platform. And it's not an easy problem to solve. It's a pretty complex challenge, and you need to work with a number of typical enterprise repositories, and you need to figure out how to tie in all of those enterprise assets into a framework, and then using generative AI, delivering that natural language experience that users expect out of an AI platform is something that we've been working on. And I think we've got a pretty solid platform that we've just launched about a month ago. And what it is Amplify is as a composite AI application. So it basically brings together the best of generative AI technology, application programming, application integration. It brings together data, applications, content, documents, all of it together using a RAG architecture. and then it provides that specific enterprise context to user queries.
So let me try to summarize. So I went through, I guess it was a flow diagram for how Implify works. And I saw that it looked like there were a lot of integrations so that you can integrate with sources like even things like YouTube videos, but
Yeah.
also, I don't know, like I'm assuming, Google Drive and getting to Google Docs. And I'm assuming there's also probably some way to get to database data too, if you wanted to get into, I don't know, whatever your SQL store is and be able to
Yeah.
pull all that. So there's an aspect to Implify where it has all these integration points where you can get different sources of data and pull it together. And you mentioned RAG as a way that it can actually interact and know, when to go out and be able to pull the data out and be able to do smart sort of queries to figure out what the data is. And I also saw in the diagram a section for agents, and I was
Yeah.
curious what that agent part of it. I think that the part about integrating everything together makes sense, and having a good sort of chat interface over that makes a lot of sense. How does the agent part fit into all of
So
that?
the agent framework or the agentic framework is not very different from the retrieval augmented generation. They're very, very closely interlinked. You actually implement RAG architecture using the agentic framework. So primarily, when you submit a query, when you send a prompt to the LLM, you are actually, through the agentic framework, you are telling the LLM as to where that information is going to be residing. You're telling the LLM as to where to process the query, which repository to use to respond to the query, and then you have an agent that specifically goes out to that target repository, fetches that information, and the LLM then takes that response, and then it constructs the natural language response corresponding to the query, and then outputs it back to the user. So it's
Got it.
primarily a way to break down the user prompt into parts so that the LLM can analyze it and then figure out which repository or which target enterprise asset can best address that response, that query, and then brings the information, construct the response, and then gives it back to the user.
Okay, that all makes sense. So this really is a way to, basically have access to all the sources of data within an enterprise, have one sort of conversational interface potentially on top of it, and
Absolutely.
be able to generate pretty graphs as you can do in some of
Absolutely.
these interfaces. And so who are you imagining like sort of the main user of this being within an enterprise? Is it support personnel? Is it product management? Is it people in this C-suite who are trying to make,
I mean,
strategy decisions?
we are really looking at this as a platform that can be deployed across the enterprise wherever you have customer touch points, wherever you have employee touch points. Think of it like the exterior enterprise portal, right? The enterprise portal has served as a single gateway to everything in the enterprise. You could do search, you could get access to documents, you could do a number of things. So it's a very similar concept in terms of what an enterprise can do with it. I mean, it can be the Google of the enterprise, right?
Got it. Yeah.
It can bring information from everywhere across the enterprise. Again, the difference is that we're not outputting hundreds of search results. We're giving very, very specific responses to user queries. It could be customers asking questions about their orders, about a particular product information, queries about a particular product information. It could be a customer complaint, or it could be an internal employee asking as to what is the company policy as it relates to vacation or travel and things like that. Or it could be a knowledge article that a line of business person is wanting to read up to do a particular task, right? So it could be the use cases are numerous. I mean, we want to build a framework that can enable both employees, customers, and a wide variety of audiences across the enterprise, both internal and external. And it's only left to the imagination of the enterprise as to what all they would want to do with this platform. We are building a foundation and a framework that will enable hundreds of use cases.
I'm going to bring this up. I've brought up this example in previous podcasts because it worries me. But the one thing I ran into, I decided to get super clever about the way I picked my health plan. So I had to, it was during our, period where you're picking your health plan. I always get incredibly confused by health plans because there's so many different options and it's hard to compare.
Absolutely.
And so I decided, I was going to feed all the information into ChatGPT, upload all the different health plans, ask it to create a comparison table for me, ask it, tell it, these are the things that I'm concerned about, all the specific issues. And it very confidently came out with this table and with ratings of different health plans. I said, I should choose this one. I said, awesome. I've saved myself hours of worrying about it. But then I discovered it made everything up, which was really, really disappointing. I mean, I ran into this problem of hallucination where it actually didn't accurately, the table, a lot of the numbers, it just kind of made up. It couldn't figure out what the right number was from a particular health plan. And it just filled that in, trying to please me, trying to please the human with it. And so that was a frustrating experience. And I guess one issue that I worry about with, especially with Implify, is how do you protect against hallucinations? How do you protect against, the large language model just trying to please people by, I don't know, telling the CEO that everything's fine, everything's making money, and everything's
right.
How do you ensure accuracy? I guess
that is to be expected with a vanilla LLM, right? That's what it's supposed to be doing. It's working off of the data set that it knows, right? So the difference is we're talking about enterprise context here. So we are asking LLM not to use its content, not to use not to use the information it knows, but rather we want the LLM to look at specific target enterprise assets and bring back information from those specific repositories, those specific data stores and applications. So there is a certain level of assurance that whatever you're getting back is of reasonable accuracy and precision. But we're not there yet. I wouldn't say there is complete confidence, and nobody is guaranteeing 100% accuracy of the information that you're getting from any of the generative AI based applications. But I think the announcement that just happened yesterday about OpenAI O1, that gives a lot more hope. I think OpenAI announced that both in terms of accuracy and security, they are seeing a significant jump from what their previous models were able to deliver. We're talking about from 10 to 20% accuracy and 20% security to over 80%. That's a phenomenal jump. So I mean, so things are going to get better and better, in the coming months. And we are working on some of those things ourselves. So we're constantly looking at model accuracy, model precision, reliability, security. So we are wanting to become an LLM agnostic, platform agnostic type of a solution, so that we can pick and choose the right type of technology to deliver this solution.
That makes sense. So hopefully, I mean, I think people are already learning how to when to trust, sort of the information they're getting back when talking to ChatGPT, when to dive in a little more, when to push it a little more, and double checking the work. I mean, it doesn't change the productivity gains you get from it. But I don't know. I'm still a little suspicious when I get information from a large language model. So I always like having the ability to go back to the source and verify, the information myself.
Well, I think it's a good playground right now. ChatGPT is a good place to figure out things as to what AI can do for you, and maybe get some recommendations on holiday destinations and things like that. But I think it's not for serious business as it is available. I think that's where some of the enterprise applications like Amplify can play a big role. But I think with newer models, more mature models like OpenAI O1, things should definitely get better in terms of accuracy and security.
And I guess the other question there is, there's no question that unlocking all of an enterprise's data increases productivity. It removes friction, all that good stuff. But there are also, you brought up, there's also sort of like access control security
Mhm.
concerns in that as
Yeah.
well, because as soon as you have something like, spanning all of an enterprise data, and it could read, I don't know, the CEO accidentally didn't, do the right permissions on a Google Doc somewhere, and now everyone knows, some stuff that they shouldn't necessarily know. How do you protect against that, and how do you like ensure that, security, ensure that the right people are getting the right information, but not everything is being automatically revealed to everyone in an organization.
No, great question. I think AI shouldn't do what wouldn't typically happen in the enterprise. Meaning, let's say there is a confidential document that's out there. If
Yeah,
you're not getting it through your regular means within the enterprise, AI cannot and should not make the document available to anyone and everyone.
yeah,
So what we have implemented as part of the Amplify capabilities is tying the platform security to the overall broader enterprise security. I mean, we use the same authentication and authorization mechanisms that you have, on top of every single enterprise asset. Be it a database, be it a application, be it a document store, whatever security controls you have on each of those repositories, we apply the same control for anything that's coming through the Amplify platform. So you cannot ask a question about a secure document, or a secure, you cannot access a secure data set if you don't have access to it within your enterprise. It's as
yeah.
simple as that. So we have
Okay,
pretty much a seamless integration between the broader enterprise security and what's available through Amplify.
got it. So if you're already following good access control policies, then it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you're using Amplify, that
and
makes
and,
sense.
and most enterprises have very strict authentication authorization controls on everything within the enterprise.
Yep,
We're just leveraging the same security mechanism for anything that a user can access through Amplify. and
got it.
and the other thing that we've done specifically within Amplify is there is something called DLP security, right? It's basically an additional layer of filtering that we apply. It's almost like content filtering. A lot of times companies are not only worried about authentication, security, etc. They also want to make sure users are not exposed to detrimental content or derogatory
Yeah,
content. So we use a DLP filter to filter out any such type of content, so that companies don't run into privacy and other types of legal types of
right.
complications.
That makes sense. Okay, so I'm trying to get my head around this. So, okay, I'm an enterprise. I want to use Amplify because I want to unlock all of my data and make it
Mhm.
all available to all the people working there. At that point, I would reach out to Quadrant Technologies. Most enterprises have a lot of specialized data stores, so they have
Yeah,
like, I don't know, they've made up their own, way of storing data, or whatever, or they're using custom databases or whatever. So I'm
Mhm.
assuming that this is something that you guys could also help with integrating to custom sources, because that comes up
Absolutely,
a lot. But you also have sort of standard connectors for standard data sources, so
absolutely.
that they get automatically. So if I'm a enterprise customer and I'm interested in learning more about Amplify, what would you recommend that I do?
I think the best thing to do is to reach out to us and request a demo. Send us an email to marcoms at quadranttechnologies.com. That is MARCOMMS at quadranttechnologies.com. We're pretty agile and efficient. We will be quick to jump on a call and show you what our platform can do. And I think most customers typically go through some kind of a pilot or a proof of concept.
Yep.
That's where the rubber hits the road, and we
Yeah.
can show what's possible to do, and clients can see for themselves what is realistically achievable and what the platform readily supports, and what is custom development. Pretty much every customer engagement involves a level of custom effort, because not every enterprise is the same.
Yep.
Every client has their own nuances and their own specific applications. So there is definitely a project effort apart from the solution implementation. So glad to go through that process. And we also have a nice solution website. It's amplify.ai. check it out. We have provided a lot of information about all the different features, functionality, all the technology capabilities, all the flexibility that the platform offers. We've also provided a number of sample use cases, example use cases across a number of industries. So audience might be able to draw some inspiration looking at those examples, or at least draw some parallels between their business and what we provided. So those are the resources that your audience can refer to, and we're there on LinkedIn too. You can check us out on LinkedIn. We have a public website, so multiple ways you can establish a contact with us, and hopefully we can hear back from as many of the audience as possible.
Very cool. Hey, I just want to thank you for your time today. I know you're super busy. I appreciate learning about Implify. And yeah, any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I think these are indeed exciting times, and the future looks even more exciting with all of the innovation that's happening all over the world. I believe there are something like 70,000 generative AI companies all over the globe, and about a quarter of them are in the US. So you can imagine the amount of innovation that's happening, the amount of energy that's pouring in. So these are great times, and we are very excited to be part of this exciting space. And we are helping a number of clients really deliver tremendous value to their customers and to their stakeholders, internal stakeholders. And we hope to help some of your audiences too. And very excited to be here. And thanks for the opportunity, Steve. Really enjoyed the conversation, and hope to catch up sometime again soon.
Sounds good. Awesome. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the OpenAI Changes Everything podcast, where we explore how OpenAI is transforming the future of humanity. Please remember to subscribe to ensure that you receive future episodes.